You are listening to the Jboy Show, your number one source for Auburn and the SEC.
My goal was to run through his soul and grab his heart when I run through his soul.
Kurt, Nate, Coach Staff, those are memories.
I think we've established ourselves as, I think, the premier conference in college football.
Now, the SEC is better at the top. It's better in the middle.
The Southeastern Conference remains the premier conference.
Now takes the snap. Looking for the receiver. He's got Lutz and Kirkland. Touchdown, Auburn!
Think about it. It's always been the SEC and everybody else trying to catch it.
I think this is probably the best league from a competitive venue standpoint.
The most capable teams. You just look at those programs, the way they recruit, how they invest.
Snap to Burrow. 3 steps. Fires. Back corner of the end zone. Over the shoulder catch. Did he hold on? He did. Justin Jefferson. Touchdown, Tiger.
And now, your host, Jboy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a super special edition, the Monday edition of the Jboy Show. And we are honored to be joined by a guy that needs no introduction, one of the best baseball coaches in the country, one of the best men in the country, has led Auburn to the College World Series. They've had a ton of success, and you never hear anything but good things about him in the program. And that's Coach Butch Thompson. Coach Thompson, thanks so much.
Jake, glad to be with you, man. How are you?
Doing great. Just enjoying living life, trying to hopefully get on the tail end of this pandemic and get back to some normalcy. But I know you guys, every time I turn on Twitter, I know you can't talk about recruits that aren't signed, but you guys are getting another commitment. And there's just so much, even during a pandemic, you can tell just so much positive energy, for the Auburn baseball program, even on a season cut short, you guys are still able to, whether it's guys going in the draft or guys coming back and you signing big time guys. Can you just kind of talk about the momentum that Auburn baseball has kind of collected over the past handful of years?
Well, it's been a slow build, I'll tell you that. So, we had our work cut out when we got here. But, when the pandemic hits, it's like, what can you do? They take away the bat and the ball and the ability to work with your players. So, when something's taken away from you, then you go like, oh, man, you're disappointed. And you go through all these stages, which we all have. And then you figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Yeah. And all of our energy basically has been focused into what we can do. And a lot of that is with our players. I know the month of May that we had 20 different speakers come on and speak to our team. I didn't know what a Zoom was before this started. And then the month of May turned into, Bo Jackson talking to our team and John Schmaltz and Rick Eckstein with the Pirates and, Sure Holtz, and you start going, all these people that were willing to come on and talk to our team. And then, I'm looking at Carl Nunemaker, who is, I think is a rock star as a recruit coordinator. And I'm like, man, I do know, being in the Southeastern Conference for almost 2 decades now, that recruiting never stops. And so I think even more energy has been put into recruiting now. We're absent as far as physically getting in the car or jumping on an airplane and going to a tournament. But what's not absent is your Rolodex of people that you've known for decades in this business of like, who still has these players. And so that drive time or that sitting watching a game time has been replaced with sitting at your desk, making phone calls, connecting with your Rolodex, getting a feel for who the best players are. And you know what? We might not get to see our gut feel of how somebody's swinging it or seeing their arm turn around in person. Videos definitely become bigger. But I would say that I'm learning more about these players. Yeah. I'm learning more about them as people. I'm spending more time talking to a mom and dad than maybe we did in the past. And I really hope we get back to normal and get back out and start doing our job and going to games in person. But I do want to make sure when we get back with our staff that we're not losing this human touch. There's been a nice level added to it that we've been able to get through this time. And so we're getting a deeper dive on character, who a person is, how he responds with mom and dad, and it's been a stronger connection. So I called Gus, I called Coach Pearl, I called a couple of our head coaches in our athletic department and just said, how do we recruit now? What do we do? And I got some of their nuggets combined with what we decided, and that's where a lot of energy is being put forth right now.
Definitely. And, obviously coaching and playing and just athletics in general, you get in such the routine of, during this time of the year, we're doing this, I'm used to doing this. And all of a sudden it gets changed and you have to find find nuanced ways to be able to keep the momentum. And like you said, I thought you brought up a great point is that, even though you're not able to physically be out there and see those things, being able to understand, the players and the families more as people actually is giving you, maybe even a new perspective once things get back to normal. So, there's never a silver lining in a viral pandemic, but at least there's something that you guys have been able to take from this situation that is going to do nothing but improve what already is, and continues to be stellar recruiting classes. My question for you, Coach Thompson, is, when you're looking for a player to come play for Auburn, obviously they have to be talented enough. But talking about that other side, what are the things that you as a head coach, as the leader of a program, are looking for in a young man to come in and represent Auburn on television, at games, off the field, and everything in that arena?
The first 5 years, I kind of, I was an assistant for 23 years, so, if you look at all the head coaches in the SEC, I'm one of those guys that was an assistant for a long period of time. So I just sat there and galvanized and thought about what I'd want a program to look like if I ever got the opportunity. And then, I based it around 3 words, and that was attack, legacy, and vision. And whenever we got that opportunity, I just wanted a group of guys, and I wanted a staff of men that was above reproach, just good men first. And, I want players to be good young people first. And that's really important. And then I want them, since they're in their purpose, to attack. I want that to be their default, is an aggressive action toward everything that we do, because we're all going to leave a legacy someday. But I want to hit on vision. I think about vision, and I think of the program of where it was with, the great Hal Baird, our all-time winningest head coach, and thinking about hosting regionals and going to College World Series, and the confidence with those players at that time that he was there. You want that, but I think it started with the vision. And what I mean by that is, I get a lot of people saying like, we got to get better, we got to do this. And I just, the first day walking in the door, I'm like, I think about Les Brown, and he says, people don't fail because they aim high and miss. It's because they aim low and hit.
I love
and if
that.
You can get every player and every coach not to improve on skill in 1 minute, but if we can raise our vision, I told them, in our first meetings that, we're going to Omaha. We're going to win a national championship. Hey, it might happen, it might not. But I know that whatever level we were at with thinking with our program, we're going to rip it out of the wall and we're going to shove it on up a few more rungs. And I can't tell you how special that was last year to see that Auburn uniform run out on that field at TD Ameritrade Park. And, I think about, even Skip Berkman, when he first got to LSU, they wasn't thinking about on a march to win 5 national championships. But Skip, I was listening to him speak one time, and I'm sitting on the front row, and he said with his first team that he gave him a map of the United States and told him, this is Baton Rouge, and then I want to show you a place where we're going. And he showed them Omaha on the map. He's like, these guys got no idea where Omaha, Nebraska is, but he said that's the first step. And I took that, from sitting there listening to him talk. In my first team meeting, I think a vision is one of the most important things that we could do. Was, it's not a brag. It's not a, pump your chest. You can overdo everything, but man, you got to believe that your program is second to none, and that you got a chance to win a championship. Or I think we're all wasting our time. It kind of helps us put our feet on the floor and get after every day if we're aiming as high as we possibly can.
Exactly, and that's a mantra that obviously you guys are aiming for, and you guys are hitting, and you hit on, obviously going to the College World Series. And Coach, I would, if you don't mind, would like to go back to the season, because it was such, a crazy season, so many clutch at bats, so many clutch pitches thrown, guys making plays, believing in each other. And during that whole run, you got the Matt Scheffler home run, you've got the Stephen Williams home run against Georgia Tech, and all these these moments. But is there one or maybe two that you can expound on for our audience that really, when Butch Thompson lays his head down at night, the one kind of pops in his head and maybe give him a little smile before he dozes off?
I'm proud of the players. And they've had so much support from their parents, have supported our staff, our fans. We sold out Plainsman Park for the first time in history this past year. And that march to Omaha has got is a huge reason for that. But if you're talking about things as a coach that I'll never forget, that I'm taught by a group of young men, this has been like a 3-year odyssey. It's been 3 regionals in a row. Mm-hmm. It's been back-to-back super regionals for the first time in our school's history. It's been knocking that door down to Omaha for the first time in 22 years. And, it all goes back to me with a coach sometimes thinks about the heartbreaking moments as much as he thinks about the special moments.
Exactly.
And, we got down to the last pitch at Florida State in 17, and we can't make the last pitch to get to a super regional that we'd have probably had at home. And, in the coach's brain, I think we should have been Omaha 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
But, that's a heartbreaking group. And so after 17, that's a heartbreak. And then 18, we're the last team not to qualify for Omaha because the ball bounces off Stephen Williams' glove and goes over the fence.
Yep.
And I'm sitting here going like, well, how do I pick these pieces up? As I'm standing on the field at Florida and I'm seeing us just crush because we're all invested.
Yeah.
And, extra innings and 1 run and not advancing to the College World Series, you're like, where do I go from here? And then, I'm thankful for last season and getting to Omaha, even though we went 0-2 in a barbecue is about all we got out of Omaha last year. That journey, because you mentioned Stephen Williams' home run, that's perseverance for a calendar year.
Yeah.
Where a player could never get over that. And for him to keep working for a year, for Gabe Gross, one of our coaches, to be the first one to meet him in right field when that ball bounced off his glove. And then a year later, I see him with us down to our last pitch playing the number 3 national seed at their park. Their starting pitcher's about to go CG. We're at 2 strikes, and he has swung and missed at 10 breaking balls from that same pitcher in this one game. But that last one just come out like a cement mixer.
Ooh, it did, didn't it? Ooh, I saw his eyes light up, too, on that replay. You can see his eyes light up.
And Stephen had missed those first 10 breaking balls about the distance of Atlanta back to Auburn.
Yep, he wasn't close. And most of them were in the dirt, weren't they?
Yeah. And he just kept swinging. And I'm like, man, we've come all this way in 1 year. Because in my mind, in the coach's mind, I still see that ball tipping off his glove.
Yeah.
And I keep sitting there, honestly, I think I could be honest here. I'm just sitting here praying for Stephen Williams to have that moment of perseverance. And when that ball was hit, I mean, it was gone. From the time the contact was made, that right field there at Georgia Tech, and there's a little jet stream that way from when I was coaching at Georgia, been there before. For a regional with Mississippi State, I've been in that park so much and played so many postseason games. When that ball was hit, it was gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cheese and crackers, man. This is amazing. And then the next week, at North Carolina, a team that had been in 5 super regionals at home in Chapel Hill and had advanced all 5 times, and we're in a rubber game. I just woke up that morning of game 3 going like, man, I'm thankful.
Yeah.
Because when we left Florida, I'm like, will we ever get back here to knock on this door of Omaha again? And now we wake up the next calendar year with a game 3 of a super regional. And I just, I told the team, like, I have so much peace today, guys. 12 minutes before a game, I'm like, we're good. Because that door, I mean, the hinges aren't even on it. I mean, there's holes in the door. I can see through the other side. The doorknob's just dangling. It's not there. Man, all you got to do is just jump. Yeah. If you want this, I mean, it is almost there for you. And, I've never been part of the 2 things of game 3 in that super regional is the 13 runs in the first inning.
Incredible.
I hope I see another one, but I'm not sure I'll ever see another half inning like that. And then, I was hell bent on Cody Greenhill throwing that last pitch, and he was done. He had already saved game one. We weren't even able to use him in the World Series, but I was convicted of him throwing the last pitch to advance us to Omaha for the first time in 22 years. Because you know what? He threw the pitch that bounced off of Stephen's glove that went over the fence.
Wow.
And there's just something amazing about that, a perseverance that builds a program that we've got forever. And the perseverance for 1 year for Cody Greenhill to throw the last pitch and Stephen Williams to hit one of the biggest home runs since David Ross did down at Florida in Auburn baseball history. Those are things that these players do for us as coaches sometimes that, you'll never forget. You'll always be thankful for those teams.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you sharing that with us, man. And I'm sure Cody and Steven, had to have a moment after that, kind of just like you talk about, just the redemption of, not only you kick the door down, but that's the guy that threw the pitch. That's the guy that hit the home run. And, when I watch your teams play, you never see somebody argue with the umpire. You always see guys hustling. There's never a ground ball they don't think they're going to beat out. And they play the right way. And that doesn't mean you win every game. Nobody's perfect. But you're able to put yourself in the position to go to super regionals and go to Omaha. And so you get a guy, and pitching is such a mental deal. It's so much, obviously you have the physical part, but being able to go out there at this level in the SEC and see the hitters that you guys face every week. Can kind of wrap it up, Coach Thompson, can you kind of talk about, what it's like, competing in the SEC? There's never a day off. You never have a day off, and just the arms that you see and the sticks that you see, and just the amount of talent in the league and how it's grown even more. They're saying South Carolina is a sleeper team this year. I never thought I'd ever hear the word South Carolina and sleeper next to each other.
Isn't it amazing? I think what we got to figure out in baseball, let me give Coach Dye some love. He started hanging out. When we started getting on our little runs and get to the postseason, Coach Dye started showing up. Mm-hmm. And I just loved it. He'd come hang out with us, and he'd pick on, he loved Judd Ward because Judd Ward played so hard. Yeah. He loved Will Holland to pick at him and talk at him. And, he'd visit with our team. And a couple of things that he said were powerful. One, your courage has got to be greater than your fear. Yeah. And we're just going to fail in baseball. We're going to fail a ton. Yeah. And, our best hitter fell 7 out of 10 times. That's one of the toughest deals. And putting your head in the sand is just, that's the recipe for disaster for a baseball player. You have to be confident. You have to fake it till you make it. You have to do all those things because everybody's counting on you. Yeah. And to me, that's one of the biggest things that you got to figure out is that you got to diminish fear, and all these things that are important has got to get bigger than fear. Your courage has got to be greater than your fear. Yeah. Your preparation's got to be greater than your fear. And if you're trying to build the best team, you got to figure out that love's got to be greater than fear. Sometimes maybe you won't get down on yourself when you want to because you know that everybody's counting on you. And if you can ever trigger that where somebody realizes this is not about myself, and this is about everybody else, it's just like hitting with less than 2 strikes. I mean, like, unless Coach Gross gives them a hit and run or a run and hit or a bunt or something like that, man, with less than 2 strikes, that's your at bat. Yeah. All you're doing is trying to hunt the best pitch that you can do damage with. But then when you get to 2 strikes, I want that to be another quality that we're still trying to build in our program.
Yeah,
when you
get
to 2 strikes, that's Auburn's at bat. Yeah. And I want you to fight in such a way that you're fighting for everybody else with 2 strikes. And I want that to be the mantra of the program, because you know what? If you take care of everybody else around you, at the end of the day, that's probably going to benefit you.
And definitely, and again, it's something where, you guys do fight like hell. You're never out of it. You make them get 27 outs, and I love the pitching philosophy that you guys have. I always, when your guys step on the mound, they never look afraid. Now, I think that's one point that obviously you hit home, and you can tell that they feel like they're the best in the country when they go out there. And you got some guys with some arms that probably are. But Coach, I really appreciate you. We're definitely got to have you back on, especially once hopefully we get baseball season rolling. I had Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball on, hopefully getting Kendall Rogers on, and I know everybody's excited to see what you guys are going to keep producing, and you're an unbelievable ambassador for the university, and I really appreciate you coming on, Coach.
Well, Jake, thanks for the guest. I've enjoyed listening to some of these already. It's amazing. I think you're doing some great stuff, and just keep on. And any way we can help you down at Auburn, let us know.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach, I really appreciate it, and going to keep looking at you and keep rooting for you. And best of luck in the future, and talk soon.
Thanks, Jake.
That was Auburn head coach Butch Thompson. Unbelievable guy, unbelievable coach. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I really appreciate him. He really went in depth with us and kind of let you know what the identity of his baseball teams are. And again, going to have him back on for sure. Always great to get a head coach, especially when it's successful as him and the guy that's put in the time. And again, thank you for joining us for this special head coach edition of the Jboy Show. Remember, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at the Jboy Show on YouTube. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. Remember, go to thejboyshow.com. We just announced it, thejboyshow.com. It's brand new. We got merch in there. We can take pre-orders and all that stuff. Check us out. It's got all the shows, topics, news, everything like that. Really appreciate you guys. As always, shout out to Faison in the studio, the Investor Brand Network. It's another edition of the Jboy Show, and Jboy's gone.